happy Friday. My name is Jessica Rondinelli. I am a member of the Schwarzkopf Professional Artistic Team in the USA. I'm here in Appleton, Wisconsin today at my salon, Engine 11. And before I get started, everybody just wants to say a quick hello to the world. So 1 second. Everybody say hello to behind the chair. Hello. Good morning, good morning. Awesome. All right, cool. Thank you so much for letting me do that. Everybody was super excited that we're live today and that we're here to talk about some awesome education before we start our beautiful long weekend. I hope everybody has an incredible weekend. So today, we're going to discuss all things TBH. So Schwarzkopf Professional has a line called TBH, which is true, beautiful, honest. So true formulas, honest formulations. And the great thing about this line is I'm specifically going to demo a technique that's based on curly, naturally wavy hair, because TBH, being that it's a multi-dimensional formula, is perfect for curly, wavy hair. Because curls, waves, sways, coils, it has a lot of dimension. So this line is absolute perfection for that. So I finished one side of the head already, just to kind of give you a visual of what this is going to look like. We're doing a modern take on a classic. So highs and lows, we've all done our patterns and our foils, high, low, whether it's weaves, whether it's chunks, slices, whatever it is. We're working with curly, wavy hair that doesn't have perfect sectioning, so we're going to mimic that in our color pattern. So on this side, I finished this. We can see those really beautiful TBH warm tones that has a lot of really nice reflection. We get highs, we get lows, and it's really, really going to bring out that curl pattern. So hair like mine, I have quite fine hair, but I have waves and I have curls. So when we think about coloring waves and curls, we want to make sure we're coloring to the bend and the highs and lows of the hair itself. So I'm going to jump right into the other side. I'm going to encourage you to ask questions. Please engage and let me know if you have anything that you want to know, talk about. The cool thing is we're going to have a giveaway. SKP is giving away 3 starter kits of TBH. So comment, ask questions, let me know what I can do to help you guys out. So I'm going to jump right in. So I'm utilizing a few different formulas. I've already done the base color on this entire head. So our base color was 30 grams of 464, so a level 4 and a chocolate beige. So a really nice, balanced, warm brown. And then I mixed it with 25 grams of our 5-47 level 5 beige copper. So very, very balanced beige copper, not super potent in the copper, and also not really too ashy with the beige. And then just a 10 volume for deposit. We're going to use two highs and 1 low formula. So a high formula is going to be equal parts of our 8-64, which is a level 8, and then a chocolate beige. So we have our chocolate first, coming through and finishing with a little bit of that beige really softly. And then a 7-4-7. So again, using these 4-7s to give a little bit of punch and extra warmth to this, so we get maximum reflection. Then we've got 10-56 and 9-47. So a higher lift, gold chocolate, so really, really nice warm blonde. And then our 4-7 again in a level 9, so much lighter. And then our low light, we're going to drop it down a bit with a 6-84. So red first, and then coming in with that really beautiful beige, just to mellow it out, but to still give a lot of reflection. So I sectioned out the hairline. Really, really simple, small zigzags, big zigzags. Now, especially on, well, curly hair, but hair in general, right? We have to be mindful of how much hair is around the hairline. That's going to determine how big this section is. So use your judgment, look up for those recession points, anywhere that there's finer hair. Maybe we want to take a little bit more hair so that way then we cover all of that. Then our other sections on the top, those are going to be our sections that these lightest pieces are going to be falling over top of our sections. So I'm first going to do the frame, which is a 10-56 and a 9-47, and a 20 volume for a little bit more bump. So I'm going to mix this on up. Cool, can everybody hear me okay? How's everybody doing? Where's everybody from? I don't know what time it is everywhere else in the world, so let me know. And out the gate, I mean, anybody have any questions right away that they kind of came to the table with TBH? Anything that comes to mind, or that you actually have no idea what TBH is, and I'll just keep talking about how easy it is. All good? So I'm looking on this computer so I can kind of see where you're at. My husband Christopher is behind me, and he's filming, so he's the extraordinaire behind the camera here. All right, so we've got that mixed up. We love to see. Awesome, yes, hello everybody. Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to start to apply this 10-56 and 947. I'm applying it all around this hairline. Like I said, I already have my base color on. I just did that for time's sake because I think we all are pretty good at a base retouch, I would imagine. So the reason too that I absolutely love TBH for a lot of reasons, but especially for our curls and our waves, is the consistency of the formula as well. It's really easy to work with, and it glides through the hair really well. Awesome. Chris, how are we doing? Any questions?
Nothing I can see from
Nothing yet? Okay, cool. Well, give me some hearts or some love if we're good, if we're excited for the holiday weekend. I am. All right, and I'm just separating a little bit of this just with the foil, just so we don't touch the head. So also too, I think it's really important to think about as we continue up this head, we're really gonna look for those bends in those curves in the curl pattern. That's gonna determine where we place our low and then where we place our high. Now again, like I said at the beginning, we're looking to create a lot of dimension, and we're looking to create a lot of highs and lows, but using a different kind of a pattern and a different idea to it rather than just our typical foils. So when I get into this, I'm going to ask you a little bit to kind of let go of what you might think you should be doing. And I'll explain that as we keep going.
Allie asked, would you recommend a certain zigzag section for specific curl patterns? As an example, tighter coils need a tight zigzag, waves get a bigger zigzag.
Again, I think go with how much density they have, and then you got to think it's just in theory you're color blocking essentially is what you're doing. So I think it really just depends on how bold, especially maybe around the hairline, how bold you want that to be. So even with someone that has really tight, tightly coiled hair, if you take a very thin section, think about that. That hair itself is already naturally diffused, right? Because of how tight that pattern is. So if the section is quite small, you're going to get a result, but it might get lost a little bit. So just be mindful, again, of just how much density is around the hairline. And then everywhere else as well, too. The smaller the sections, the more detail it is. And on something, again, that has very tight coils, it's already naturally going to diffuse itself. So just be mindful of that. Maybe take a little bit of a bigger section so you can see it a little bit better. Also, and then staying with finer hair, if you have finer curly hair like I do, a lot of times I also need to take bigger sections if I want it bolder. So if that makes any sense. Hopefully that was helpful. All right. I'm going to just separate this out with a little piece of plastic here. Just going to stick a little bit better. All right. So now, kind of get into the meat and potatoes of this section. So I have two boards. The reason I have two boards is because I just want to make sure that I'm putting the right color on each one. So that is really the only reason for that. I've got my two formulas in through here. Now again, this mannequin is not insanely curly, but we do have some waves and we have a pattern going on of some kind. So as I look where some of those waves are hitting and where some of those peaks and valleys are, that's where I'm going to focus on placing my high or my low. But I'm going to utilize the board because I'm going to paint underneath and on top. So what's going to happen is even though these formulas are separate, all these formulas are separate, what's going to be cool is that because we're kind of layering these on top of each other, is that we're going to get almost like a tertiary color or a fourth color, fifth color, and that's going to give these curls in this wave so much dimension and so many different color options, but only using a few formulas. So I'm going to start in this back area here. Let me just flip my head. Chris, I don't know how easy it is for you to come in over here, if I should try to go this way. Cool. You see that? All right, awesome. Okay. So I'm going to take a really irregular section, but because I'm going on the top and the bottom of this, I want it to be fine enough that it's going to saturate, but not just a skinny little, piece. Okay, so we have a section about, I would say about 1 inch thick. Let's change this way. Cool, can you see that? Awesome. All right, so I'm gonna mix up my colors. That's probably important to do so. Another thing about TBH that's really, really awesome is depending on how you want to use this. So say you are using this to tone, there is something called our tone softener. So what that's going to do, not only is it's going to add moisture because it has shea butter in it and it's really, really nourishing for the hair, but it's also going to help to soften out the intensity of the pigment, which is amazing because what that's going to do is give you the effect of a demi, but in the longevity and some of that control of a permanent. So if anybody hasn't used the tone softener in their formulations, if you're using it in a demi way, it's going to be all equal parts. So 1 part color, 1 part tone softener, 1 part developer. If you're using it to tone, we're going to be doing 1 part of our color to 2 parts of our tone softener, right? Because we want to think about if we're using our levels 8, 9, we really want to make sure we kind of shear out and soften that formula a little bit. Awesome. Cool. Anything else? Any other comments or questions right now?
Elvira asked, is the product applied all the way to the base or is it close to it and diffused?
Close to it and diffused. Great question. Yep. This side I had put on base color and then went right into it. So it was diffused in the whole process, if that makes sense. This side, because I've already done the base color, I'm still going up to it. In real time of an entire head, you would do base and then you would do all of this right away, obviously instead of separating this into 2. So yeah, melt it right up, but we're not going to go saturate from that base, but into the base color. Yep, great question. Okay, so this, because we're in the back of the head, my first section underneath is going to be our 6-84, and then over the top of this section, I'm going to put the 8-64 with the 747. So I'm going to load my board up with my 6-84. Also, if you don't have the giant brushes from Schwarzkopf, you need to get them because they're amazing. All right, so I'm going to load my board up. So similar to how we load a board for balayage, we're using this to balayage, we're using this to paint, right? We're sweeping this hair with the color. So I'm going to place that underneath, and I'm going to use my board to kind of push and saturate that in. Bunch of things this is going to do. Not only is it going to push that color in, it's going to add a really great bit of dimension, and then we can keep our hands clean as well. Okay? So on top like that. And then right over top of this, I'm going to paint our 8-64 and our 747. And it's a fine enough section it's going to saturate. Remember, again, TBH multidimensional. We want that dimension, and we want it to be highs and lows. So we don't want any spottiness, but we also are okay if we've got a little bit of differentiation in that. What I mean by that is it's only going to accentuate that coat pattern more. Cool. All right. So same thing. Now this one, I'm going to flip that. So we had our deeper color underneath and our little bit lighter color on top. I'm going to flip it. I'm going to put our little bit lighter color underneath and our deeper color on top. So again, I'm going to take my board. I'm going to load this board up. So if you're just joining, my name is Jessica. I'm a member of the Schwarzkopf Professional USA Artistic Team, and we are doing a modern approach on a classic high and low with TBH or multi-dimensional color line from Schwarzkopf Professional. So I'm gonna do that same thing. We're gonna use that board, tension on the bottom of our section, paint our lighter formula on that top, and you can always grab that bottom again, and kind of paint underneath. So similar as you would, again, to a balayage, we're not picking it up and painting underneath, but we're using that board. Okay? 6-84, right over top. And again, think about it. We're gonna create kind of another tonality with this too, which is great. So we can see Chris come in a little bit, right? So we can see that deeper color on the top, but then we've got some of those pieces of that lighter color on the outside, and then same with this section, darker underneath and a little bit lighter on top. So imagine this now too, right? When that curl is all nice and defined, is we've got just these beautiful swirls and coils of a little bit lighter, a little bit deeper, and it's gonna add so much life to curly hair. All right, section in the front. Any questions on that? Does it scare anybody? Is it like, I don't know, it's gonna saturate, is it gonna do the right thing? Or is it like, cool, this is definitely something I could utilize behind the chair and I could get creative with it? Thumbs up, hearts, hands, shout, whatever you wanna do. All good? Cool, okay. So this section is about too, so because we've got our lightest piece around the front frame, so as we all know, right, if we're creating a money piece or a front frame, anything that sits behind it, if it's deeper, it's gonna pop that front. So I'm gonna do my deeper color underneath it here and my little bit lighter color on top. So that way then, when this pushes back, this color is gonna look even brighter, right? It's not necessarily about our highs, it's generally, I should say, most always about our negative space, right? Whenever we're blocking or balayaging or anything like that, because that's what's gonna make those tones really pop. So again, I'm gonna grab my board. Something may fall, just in case you're wondering. There's a lot of things going on here. All right, so let's load this up. Load it up. Tension. Use your board. A very technical term would be smoosh. Smoosh it in.
Anna asks, how wide are the sections?
I'm not measuring, I'll be honest. Because we're working with curly hair or wavy hair, this is all discretion. So this is all your kind of your own creative freedom in your sectioning. The only sections that are the for sure ones are triangles on the top, again, based on your density. How many triangles you want? I did 3. That's gonna be our lightness that's just gonna fall over top. And then the density of the section around the hairline. This middle area is honestly completely up to you and where the curl pattern is. But be mindful, again, you want enough of a section that you can still see through it, just enough so that way then you know that it's saturating. Did that help? Did that help?
Laurel asked, the hair is already lighter on the ends in mid-strand. What if the hair was all one color prior to the application?
So this mannequin was all one color. This was a brand new mannequin. Ask that again one more time.
Basically saying like if it hadn't been lightened.
Oh, sure. So I mean, if it hadn't been lightened, you can. Oh gosh, it opens up a whole new thing. I'm using, because tbh is a permanent hair color line, and again, this has not been lightened. This mannequin has not been lightened before. So I can use this permanent color, and I can use my developers to kind of adjust and alter, right, how much I want to lift and how much I want to deposit. In the tbh line too, again, there are high lift colors, so you can really get a really beautiful high lift blonde by using your 30-40 volume. And then you can drop it down again by utilizing your 6 volume, your 10 volume. So great thing about obviously natural hair is we can use permanent color to give us that high and low, rather than having to rely on just completely bleaching it out and then putting all of the tonality kind of back in. If that helps. Yeah.
And I think you had based this head then.
I did.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Yep.
Yes. The ends were not lightened, but I added a base color to it.
That may be why.
Yes. Yep. Thank you for clarifying. Sorry.
Patricia asked, could you use a level 7 instead of an 8 and 6 to achieve the same look?
Of course. Yeah, you're gonna get, anytime you have, so think about it this way. I mean, the maximum dimension is gonna come from formulas ranging from like 1 to 5 levels, right? So if you've got a formula that's living at like a level 5, and then you've got something that's at like a 8 or 9, you're gonna get a lot more dimension and a lot more like block coloring. It's gonna be a little bit more, I'd say, just say intense. If you want it to be softer, just drop how much those are in between. So we've got a range here from a deeper base color. I just thought it would be cool to have a little bit of a root. You could completely take that 10, 5, 6, and 9, 4, 7 all the way up to the base, whatever you want to do. But they generally live, anything that we've got in our highs and our lows, are going to live within 3 to 4 levels of each other. Right? Did I do math right? 10 minus 6. Okay. So we've got anything between like 4 levels of each other, and in a similar tonal family that complement each other. So that's the thing too, right? You want to make sure that you're using things that complement each other. If you want it to be a little bit more soft, subtle, and just really like when it hits the sun, you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that that color was in that person's hair. Or they come back in and you're like, oh my gosh, that was really cool how we almost created another tonality. So it's kind of similar. So you're working with that tonal palette and that color palette. But yeah, you can use whatever you want. I mean, go for it. Like you can get as wild and crazy as you want with this. There's no rules.
Steph says, love these low light tips. If you accidentally go too blonde with the foil application, do you have any tips for breaking up the blonde with low lights for dimension?
Okay, so vertical foils. Now, it's going to scare people because you're like, oh my God, it's going to be super stripy. However, think about it this way. If you're super, super solid and you want dimension, if we add something that's horizontal, all you're going to do is create a really heavy curtain effect, right? If we add in vertical foils, along with some of those horizontals on the top, you're actually going to separate and you're going to get that dimension back in there without completely taking over your blondes. And then you're also not going to like lose that brightness, and you're also not going to lose the lowlights. So think about, the idea like, oh my gosh, I put a vertical foil that's going to be really stripy. Not necessarily, again, depending on how dark your low light is. If you've got a level 10 and it's super solid and you're trying to get back to like a level 8, gorgeous, vertical foils all day. If you're using like a level 5, obviously even at that point you're going to have to fill, so that's a whole different application. Yeah. Awesome. Okay, so this one, our top one was a little bit lighter. This one was a little bit deeper. So this one I'm going to do another deeper underneath and a little bit lighter on the top. Again, this is just visualizing where those highs and lows are going to sit and what we want them to look like. And it just takes us out of our, our normal, like, well, I'll put highs and lows and I'll just use foil. Like, we've got a lot of tools, and yes, our board is good for a lot of things to add pressure so we can paint really well. But it's also, like, think about your tools in a different way. Like, how can I utilize this in just in a whole different way, rather than just what it's supposed to be used for, right? Like, it keeps it creative, not only for us and our brains, right? We can't keep doing the same thing over and over and over again. But it also ensures our clients, they come back because we're the experts and we're trying new things. And I think that especially after we've all kind of come back, hopefully I hope everybody's back to work, that, people are looking for something else, or they're coming in with, I don't know, they never knew that they had curly hair. And then all of a sudden they've got a full head of curls because they didn't touch it for a year. And they're like, I have no idea what to do with this. What are we going to do? And now you have something kind of in your back pocket that you could utilize. You could do this with all reds, right? You could do something super bright with something super deep. Like, really think of the creative possibilities with this. All right, so Chris, if we come into this section back here.
And Steph had also asked about the tone softener again, just kind of what it was simply.
Yeah, so tone softener is meant to just that. So in the name, so tone softener. So especially because it's a multi-dimensional permanent line. So it's still permanent hair color. So that tone softener is going to come in and soften the pigment weight. We refer to pigment weight per our levels of color, right? A level 1 has a ton of pigment weight. A level 10 or in our high lift series is going to have a very light pigment weight. So that tone softener is going to help to soften that tone, but then it's also going to add in a ton of moisture with our shea butter, macadamia oil, things like that. So that way it's really nourishing to the hair. So it's like treatment plus a little bit of dilution of the pigment, and then also it's going to help to just really create a little bit of a lighter, I don't want to even say translucent, not transparent, but a little bit less opaque, I guess is kind of the best way I could say it, tonality. Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to do a lighter underneath and a little bit of a deeper on top of this one because this section back here was our darker formula. And then I'm always kind of checking too. We're kind of checking to see through a bit. Yes, I can see down to the floor. I can see my hand through that. Then we know it's going to saturate. So that's kind of our most important. Oh, I'm so glad I painted my toenails. I just saw my toenails. Okay. I can't help it. Sorry, but I'm a little nuts. All right. Okay, so we're going to use that tension on the underneath. Again, and we can see, so just kind of get in here. So right off the gate too, that side, that's okay, right? If we've got a little bit of that coming through, we don't want this to saturate all the way through that section, just enough on that underneath. Again, similar to if you were painting, you'd want to make sure that if you're surface painting, you're not saturating all the way through. You don't want to create any spots. Okay, and then our 6-84 over top. Creating that middle tonality. But as it starts to process, like I said, what's really cool too is you can really start to see that come to life and then imagine this as it's wavy and curly, like this side, right? You see highs, lows, we get that really beautiful. I love this red because it's like, it's dusty, right? It's a little bit dusty. It's not so punchy. So it's going to fade really beautifully as well too, and just fade a little bit softer and lighter.
You kind of did that perfect. Lauren asked, she's just joining. What is the overall goal?
Hey Lauren, yeah, great question. So overall goal is creating maximum dimension on wavy or curly hair. So overall goal is to accentuate those swirls and those S patterns and those shapes that wavy or curly hair has. And by using multiple formulas and by using ones that are a little bit lighter and ones that are a little bit dimmer, it really helps to give contrast and dimension. And then with something, again, like TBH, because it is that multi-dimensional formula, especially on waves and curls, it keeps it so it's not so flat and matte, right? You think about, how many of you are Schwarzkopf professional users? I hope all of you, but if not, it's all right. But just give me a little hands up. Think of something like Aurora Royale, right? Aurora Royale is punchy, it's sharp, it's everything is completely the same color. That's the goal, it's really intense. TBH, softer, a little bit multi-dimensional. It's going to respect a lot of natural highs and lows and not try to get everything all to the same. It's kind of like, it's going to give you more of like this type of an effect rather than something that's just completely all the same, if that makes sense. Cool.
Well done. That was good.
Thank you. I've got some really good coaches and trainers, so thanks. All my peeps at Schwarzkopf, y'all are the best. And my team. My team's incredible. The stuff they come out with, I swear. Yeah. It's amazing. Cool. Okay. So we've got deeper, lighter. We're going to do a lighter underneath it here and a little bit deeper on top. So as we now work up, so we can see this whole section up here is quote unquote done because now all we have left to do is our lightest formula over top of here. So again, if we look at sectioning of this, sorry, I'm hop over here just for a second. We look at the sectioning of this, where this lives on the head, this piece is going to fall forward, and we've got a little bit of a high and a low in between these two light sections. So right away, that's going to give us a bunch of dimension. This piece, this center piece, is going to fall right where it lives. This one is right in natural fall. And then we've got this piece on the back of that triangle that's going to fall to the back of this and kind of come over top, whatever depth we lay over here. So again, we're really thinking visually as we're sectioning this too, where is this going to fall? Like we do with any type of painting or balayage or really kind of color, in general, where is this going to fall and where is this going to live? How many times have we done, I know I've done this, you kind of go on autopilot and you just go for it and you put in all your foils and you put in all your lowlights and you put your color in between and you're like, where did it go? Like I've just lost all of this because we're like, oh, we just put this pattern, we just went for it. We didn't even think about where that's going to fall. And now you have a low light where you wanted to highlight and it kind of ruins the whole look. Just ruins the whole thing.
Ellie asked, do you have tips for going about keeping the multidimensional obvious without overlapping colors during touch-up appointments?
Great question. Okay, so because we're using our permanent hair color line right now, and again, our tonalities are really similar, so it's going to fade similarly because we've got a very, they're close in their tones. I would use as a refresh, I would use Agora Vibrance. Because we don't want that buildup of permanent hair color, right? As we know, that can cause a lot of banding or things like that. Now, again, this is softer, multidimensional, but it's still a permanent hair color. So unless you're going for a complete change and you're kind of removing some of this color, I would go in with Agora Vibrance to help to balance and change that tonality. Honestly, though, too, after an application like this, you are likely going to kind of switch what you're doing. So, and what I mean by that is you're going to probably switch some of your patterns and your tonality based on how this is faded and based on where that is on the head. So, but Agora Vibrance for a refresh after a permanent hair color application is going to be where it's at. Okay, back section. How we like doing? Where's everybody from? What time is it? And where everybody is? This 10 a.m. just felt good for me, so I don't know if it's good for everybody else. I'm kind of looking. Awesome. Okay. Yeah, more comments, more things. You get that starter kit. Schwarzkopf USA is going to pick 3 lucky people to win that. And you guys, once you start to use this, it's amazing. It's kind of that tool that you start to use and you're like, oh, that's exactly what I needed. I needed it to not be so intense. I needed it to not be so sheer. And I needed it to just have a little bit more reflection and dimension to it. It's the bomb. And with the extension of adding more colors in this with our warm line, it's even more versatile. And tension, and we're gonna, again, technically smoosh that into the hair. Okay. Top color. All right, I know we're at about 30 minutes or so if anybody is joining us just now and popping in, hope you got to see some hair. And also, like I said, my name is Jessica, Schwarzkopf Professional USA, artistic team member. We're talking today all about TBH and how to create highs and lows in a new way rather than just traditional foils with our TBH line and create maximum dimension. And it just looks so pretty too when it's when it's processing. Cool. I think the biggest thing to think about in something like this too, again, is just realizing that we just going on autopilot is not ever going to, number one, challenge us, and it's also not going to get us any further in where we're going. And it's up to us to kind of keep the spark alive, y'all. And find ways to do things, use your tools differently. I don't know, go to a craft store and find something that you've never used before. Push that up in there. Awesome. All right, a few more sections of this. And our deep one, we're going to put our deeper tone on this top because this section is going to be our lightest color. So it's going to give us a lot of really nice dimension. This is really good to paint with too, again, because of the creaminess and the consistency of the color. When you start to work with this, you're really, really going to start to notice just how nice it is to work with and how much it spreads really, really, really easily. All right, so we're going to do a little lighter again in this back area. And then we'll kind of finish up. So again, tension. Roll that on there, get that right on that underneath. See if you can see that. Nice, awesome. And our depth over top. And it's so customized that, man, someone will trust you forever, right? They're gonna go someone else and try to be like, you know, they did this thing last time, or they painted the color on my hair, and it gave me a lot of dimension, and I don't know how they did it, and they're gonna be yours.
Steph asks, when you rinse House and Lowlights and the bowl together, do you ever worry about color bleeding? How do you avoid that?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely, it's a valid concern. I tend to rinse, especially warmer colors. We all color, we should rinse in cool water, but it's kind of uncomfortable for some people. I tend to rinse in cool water. And then also, I mean, again, these colors are very similar, and our tonal range is between, 1 and 4 levels. So I'm not necessarily worried about this particular one. However, if you're working with a lightener up against really dark low light, I would probably pull my lightener foils out first. Yeah, probably first, and I would rinse those out and try to honestly almost separate them out a little bit. So take them out, rinse them off, and then kind of flip them over the top of the head or get them out of the way a little bit to rinse that really, really dark color. Otherwise, they're going to kind of mesh together in cool water. And just tell your client, like, hey, unless you want these to be, green or blue or whatever background color you had in your low light, we're going to need to rinse this in cooler water. With similar tonalities, and something like this where you're not working with lightener up against like a demi or a permanent, I wouldn't be crazy concerned, just use cooler water. Yeah. Cool. All right, few more sections. I know we're coming up on our time here a bit, so I want to make sure we get all of this finished. You can just kind of see that finished application. All right, so again, a little bit of our layer. We're going to keep that depth on the top in all of these sections as we work up, again, because that 10-5-6 and that 9-4-7 is going to be what lays over top of all of this. Okay, cool. Let's do just one little guy here. And now these sections, we're going to do a complete color block with our 10-5-6 and our 9-4-7. And I like to keep one hand clean. It's just who I be. So I kind of tend to use the back of this brush to work through a little bit, and then I'm really kind of rolling and pushing this color into itself. 2 reasons too, so I don't waste any color. A lot of times we kind of like end and wipe it off, and then you've got a whole glob on your hand. As a salon owner, I guess I'm also just very conscious of that. But you'll also just get better saturation as well too, if you're really working it in. But keep the hand clean too, then your brush won't be all over the place. Okay, our other triangle. And again, these top triangles, totally based on, honestly, head shape, head size, and then how dense the hair is. Because, again, if we have too many triangles, this 10-5-6 and this 9-4-7 is going to take over. But if it's too little as well, too, we're going to lose it. We want them to have a little bit of boldness to them. All right, one more section. Cool. So as I kind of wrap this this technique up, any other questions? Anything else for me as far as either this or any other technical questions on applications? Anything tbh? Anything that you guys just want to know about Schwarzkopf Professional in general? I love it. It gives me everything. So I am at your disposal. I'll kind of finish this and then I'll show you. And then just clear it off here. Cool. So final application. We can see then we've got those lighter pieces again over top. And as it starts to develop, we can really visually start to see where we're going to have those highs and those lows. And then those ribbons of color floating over the top of this. Yeah. These ribbons of color kind of floating over the top of this and bringing any curl pattern to life. Awesome. Cool. Any other questions from you guys?
Can you review the color blocking sections again? Are they just on top or throughout where you feel they were needed?
Sure. So the color blocking section, so the few sections that are like the ones that should be a little bit more, I guess, exact, if you will, are the ones that are going to be around this hairline. Again, this is just a zigzag pattern. I used a smaller zigzag around the hairline, and then figure out density of that hairline, and that's going to give you how much hair you want to put into that. More hair is obviously going to be bolder, but sometimes on someone that has really fine hair, like myself, you'd want to take a larger section just to take up a little more space, and it's still not going to look super, super chunky. And then the reason, again, for that zigzag is that diffusion. And then the triangles to the top, I'm not the greatest drawer, but I really try. And the triangles to the top, again, are going to be based on how much hair is on the top of the head. And sometimes, too, no insult to injury, but how big somebody's head is, right? Some people have a little bit of a larger head, and that's okay. But we need to take a few more sections to make sure that it works and it goes together. These sections in here are completely at your discretion, again, based on that curl pattern and really what you want to see and how you want to place that. This head, like I said, is more curly and wavy, so I really just wanted to get an alternating effect of those highs and lows. But again, depending on tightness of curl pattern, you really even can go you can paint out carves. You can paint out the curves in the hair as intensely as you want. If that helps. Cool. Awesome. Okay, cool. So this is an application, again, a modern take on a classic of our highs and lows. I will send the before and after so everybody can kind of see the full effect of everything. And then again, if you've been screenshotting the formulas, I can also post that on my Instagram at Rondinelli. Yeah, we can chat all things TBH, talk all things Schwarzkopf Professional. I was so happy to be here with you guys today. I hope everybody has an incredible holiday weekend. Thank you for letting me share some TBH and Schwarzkopf love, and I'll see you soon.